8 murders, 12 months, and a crime spree that stretched across 3 counties in Southern California. This is the story of Bruce "LOCO" Millsap, a man investigators say moved through the streets with a level of violence that felt more like a war zone than everyday crime. Tonight, we're breaking down the full timeline, from the first shot fired to the 8 death sentences that followed. Before the name LOCO hit the news, Bruce Millsap was already known in parts of Los Angeles for robberies, intimidation, and connection to street activity. He wasn't seen as a small-time criminal. He was seen as unpredictable, someone who didn't mind using force to get what he wanted. Prosecutors later described him as the trigger of his crew, the one who made the final decision when things turned deadly. And in the mid-90s, California was changing fast. Gangs were active, robberies were rising, and armored truck routes became a dangerous job. It began in late 1995. Detectives didn't know it yet, but Southern California was about to face one of its most violent robbery sprees. The first killing tied to Millsap was Ramon McKissick. What seemed like a targeted shooting would later be connected to a larger pattern: quick attacks, fast escapes, and no hesitation. Just weeks later came the killing that would shake Long Beach, the murder of Brink's guard Fernando Herrera outside Queen City Bank. He was ambushed during what should have been a routine armored truck stop. Witnesses described panic, confusion, and a deadly level of precision from the attackers. What investigators noticed next was the consistency. The crimes happened fast. The victims were often people who handled money. And the shooters didn't wait, negotiate, threaten, or warn. They fired immediately. By early 1996, detectives from different counties realized they weren't looking at random crimes. They were looking at a coordinated spree that was gaining momentum. Then came the murder that shocked the community: the killing of armored car driver James Moon at Curtis Junior High in Carson. This wasn't at night. This wasn't in an alley. This happened in a school area, broad daylight, while families and students were nearby. For many people, this was the moment everything changed. The fear spread fast, and armored truck companies started warning their drivers to stay alert, especially in the counties where this crew operated. Police eventually identified Millsap's crew members. The most well-known was Kendrick Lute, believed to be directly involved in multiple murders and robberies. Then there was Richard Colston, who later flipped and testified against the group, and Emmanuel Brown, who never made it to trial. He died by suicide inside the jail while awaiting his case together. This group was responsible for robberies, attempts, and killings across Los Angeles, Orange, and San Bernardino counties. Their coordination and the number of crimes in such a short time frame made the investigation one of the largest multi-county collaborations of the late 90s. With the crew identified, detectives finally had the blueprint of how this operation worked. But the investigation was far from over. As officers connected more evidence across multiple counties, a clearer timeline began to emerge, and it pointed straight to several more murders tied to the same spree. The spree didn't slow down. In mid-1996, more murders were tied to the crew. Francisco Parroquia, Carlos Nuno, and Patrick Barnett, all killed during robberies or attempted robberies. The final known victim, Lamont Smith, was killed in November 1996. At this point, communities were shaken, businesses were tightening security, and armored car drivers were changing their routes. Detectives worked around the clock to tie every scene together because they knew the violence wasn't random. It was escalating. By the late 90s, investigators finally pieced the pattern together. Cases from 3 counties were combined, witnesses were tracked down ballistics, and robbery details were matched. And in January 2000, after a massive trial, a jury convicted Millsap of 8 murders. Prosecutors painted a picture of a crew that treated human life as disposable, especially when money was involved, And on February 24, 2000, the judge sentenced Millsap to death 8 separate times. Even courtroom reporters described it as one of the harshest sentences handed down that year. After sentencing, Millsap was transferred to San Quentin State Prison, home to California's death row. Death row is a world of its own. Heavy security, limited movement, and decades-long appeals. Millsap joined hundreds of inmates waiting for legal decisions that often take years to finalize. But even inside one of the most secure prisons in America, Millsap's name made headlines again. In 2016, a school employee visiting San Quentin was caught smuggling heroin, pills, and 18 illegal cell phones, all allegedly meant for Millsap inside the visiting room. Inside a maximum security facility. The case shocked the public and raised questions about how someone on death row could still influence people outside the prison walls.
And now we want to talk with Grant Lotus about a teacher who's been arrested for trying to smuggle drugs into a prison.
Yeah, Grant's got more on the arrest. Grant, what do you know?
This is a teacher's assistant from the Los Angeles Unified School District who was up in the Bay Area visiting an inmate accused of smuggling lots of cell phones, heroin, and pills into San Quentin Prison. Terry Nichols was visiting inmate Bruce Millsap, who's convicted for murdering 8 people. The prison's investigative services unit happened to be in the main visiting room Thursday and noticed a bunch of empty Ziploc bags in the trash. Investigators say Nichols consented to a search and then admitted to hiding all of the items in her clothing. 18 cell phones, 18 phone chargers, more than 80 grams of heroin, and 2 unidentifiable blue pills. Nichols, who's 47, will be arraigned in Marin County next month.
As of today, Millsap remains on San Quentin's death row. His direct appeal is still pending with the California Supreme Court, a normal process in capital cases that can take decades. No execution date has been set, and with California's death penalty system currently paused, Millsap is likely to remain on death row for years to come. 8 lives lost, a crew torn apart, and a crime spree that still stands as one of Southern California's deadliest robbery patterns. This is Red Tape. No filter, just facts. What do you think? Was justice served in this case, or does the system still have unfinished business?